AP Lit, we're reviewing A Heart of Darkness. Up until the last 15, 20, 25 pages, how you get bits and pieces of information about Kurtz. The whole organization of the book is Kurtz and the voyage to Kurtz. But it's not just to Kurtz literally, it's to what Kurtz represents and the Heart of Darkness and all that. But those are the kinds of things that you could use in your book, in your paper, to show structure. Like he talks a little bit about, he hears about it. When does he hears about it? Somewhere in Brussels. I don't remember when, but he starts hearing about it when he gets to the camps. Starts hearing the name Kurtz. And he forms an opinion. And as he gets closer and closer, remember the fog gets deeper and deeper. As he gets closer to the Heart of Darkness, both symbolically and physically, things get fuzzier and more dreamlike until he meets Kurtz. And then he sees him for himself. That's a really dramatic moment. So I just think that's another way that the book is organized, and that this idea of Kurtz being not an ordinary man. Yeah.
Do you have any sample questions of maybe questions on the Heart of Darkness? Or no?
Well, that's sort of what I'm doing now. When I finish, I kind of review it, the kinds of things. The question I'm going to ask you will be broad and vague. Not vague, but broad, general. What?
Is it only one question?
Yes, this time, yes.
What was that last point you said about Kurtz?
Well, he considered, the Harlequin called him not an ordinary man.
Yeah.
And this idea that he was superior, he could live outside the rules, and yet who eventually does win? It's not Kurtz, but it's really, in a sense, it's really the wilderness. Africa beats Kurtz. Africa kills Kurtz. The heads on the posts, just the idea of the hollow man, that was the poem we looked at. And the fact that that's a big theme here. One of the managers is considered a hollow man. Kurtz is hollow, and all that means, there's something on the outside, but on the inside he called Brussels a whitewashed tomb. So it's nice on the outside, but it's got dead men's bones in the inside. The sepulcher city, this white sepulchered city. So that's another thing, but the appearance in reality. I didn't really, it's page 124. He talks about how the chiefs crawled to Kurtz, and then at the very end, so there's symbolism of crawling. Kurtz at the end is crawling through the jungle to get to the medicine man. On page 90, 91, it talks about how the steamboat was crawling toward Kurtz. So this idea of subservience and of almost worship and religious idol worship, that's what you do. You're subservient, you crawl toward someone greater. I think the first time we see Kurtz is on page 125, just for your sake. First time we actually see him, the book started on page 45, and we're on page 125. I think there are 149 pages in the book, so it's, again, about the last 25 pages. And the first words he says are on page 126. The first words we hear him say. Up to this point, everything we hear is from other people's perspective. The Harlequin, the managers, they're always giving some agents at some of these camps, they're always giving them their opinion of him. And one thing that some of them like him, some of them don't, but he's a remarkable person. He's incredibly gifted and remarkable.
So
Yes.
we can have our books for the essay?
No notes, but books, yes. The two intendeds, we talked about that, how different they are, and yet they're both, he's this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde figure. He changes when he gets into the jungle. There's a whole idea that I've always struggled with is, why does Marlowe promise to protect Kurtz's reputation? He does so even to the end of the book, except he's revealed it to these four men on the ship. But he's protected it, so therefore we see Kurtz being overcome by the wilderness. The wilderness won. that's what he fails to explain, is that Kurtz was overcome by darkness. And to the intended, he just said, yeah, he still loved you right up to the end, you know. So they saw him as that intellectual, kind-hearted, great man, when what we see is him being overcome by the darkness at the end. Yeah.
Are we gonna have a quiz on Thursday? Or is it-
No. Oh, on the book, it's always a possibility. Just, I want you to read it. We've already got several quizzes actually already, but just, I'm not gonna say no categorically. All right, again, the Russian, his role in sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Adoring Kurtz and teaching about Kurtz. He's sort of Kurtz's prophet, or Kurtz's priest, or Kurtz's what?
Idolizing?
Yeah, good. That's what all these people do. They idolize Kurtz, and the Russian as well as the African idolize him. You know, it's beyond just skin color or ethnic background. He's almost this antichrist figure. You ever been in a church? This is off the subject. I can tell you right now, I have never heard a preacher in person preach about end times, Book of Revelation, or heard about Daniel. I've heard Daniel preach, but have you ever been in a church service where the pastor preached? Because I never have. You have.
Preach. What?
Preach the end times, preach Revelation, eschatology as we call it. You have, Lily, you have. I'm older than you guys. I cannot remember ever a pastor preaching in person. I've heard it a lot on the radio. I just think that needs to be done. There are various views of the end times. That's all right. But I'm glad that you've heard that, because I'd love to hear in person a pastor do that.
Maybe you should be that change.
When you say that, now I know why they don't do it. Because I would automatically say, well, I can't do that, because everything, particularly in Revelation, there are two, maybe three different ways to interpret it. And
You never talked to us about that.
what?
You talked to us about that.
I have talked to you about that?
Dr. Tom.
No, Dr. Howard.
Oh, yeah, really? Good. What did he say?
I forget.
Did he come down on one
He
view or
said
the other?
One was delayed and one was literal.
Yeah.
One was literal, one was figurative. I don't know.
Okay.
Dave's probably knows. Dave.
I think one is that it focuses on the past. One that's focuses on the future, and then one that's purely just symbolic.
All right. Well, no wonder people have trouble preaching from it, because you're going to have to, everything you have to say it 3 times. You know, these people say it this way. The premillennialists say it this way. The postmillennialists say it this way. The amillennialists say it this way. And I've heard people even say the tribulation people this. I don't even know why. I don't know how many categories we have. But I appreciate him doing that. You won't hear it much. I'm glad some of you have heard pastors preach on it. Just more about that symbol of crawling, the horror, the last words he spoke. And then finally, Marlowe returns, and that whole reaction to, he's changed. Even the jungle changed him, the darkness, because he knows something now that they don't know, that the people of Brussels do not know. He feels like he's now separated from them, and they're ignorant. They're going about their lives when he's seen the heart of darkness, and it's changed him. So that would be evidence that he's changed. And then he's changed in the fact that he lies, and he's changed in the fact that he defends Kurtz. And notice,
Talking about the Russian.
I'm talking about Kurtz. I mean, Marlowe there, when he comes back to Brussels, he feels superior to people, because now he knows something. It's like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now he knows a secret that these people don't know. He's seen into what the heart of life really looks like. And they don't know. They're acting like, and so it's changed him. He gets these 3 visitors. That's not all that important, but 3 people try to, they give us more views. It is important in the sense that it gives us views of Kurt. Like, he was a great musician. One of them, one's from the company, one is a journalist. Can't remember what the other one was, but they all give us insight into Kurt's. And yeah, I think that's it. Those are some notes I had written down. I mean, I didn't review everything in it, but the whole travel, I think one scene that to me is really important is that first scene when he hits Africa. It's that first station where the holes in the ground for no reason, the explosions for no reason. There's equipment upside down, rusted. They're slaves that are dying. That are slaves that are chained together. It's just like it's like Dante's Inferno, which is supposed to. This is supposed to kind of imitate that, the journey to that heart of darkness, like Dante to the pit of hell. This happens to be on a river, but Dante climbs down hell to the pit of hell, and so he's climbing further and closer, sailing closer to the heart of darkness. But the whole idea about the flabby devil and the red-eyed devil, 2 different approaches to evil. The pilgrims, and they kind of represent, and the managers, they represent that flabby devil. Kurt's more the red-eyed devil, which, take your pick, which devil do you want? They both work. They both do the work of darkness. So those were things I had written down earlier. I think knowing a book like that would be very helpful. It's not a long book, but just in your mind reviewing, and it's easy to do that because it's in that linear order from Brussels, down the coast of Africa, up the Congo to the central office, then central station to the inner station. That would be, to me, that's a way of getting it. One thing, a red badge of courage, I don't think it happened to you, but people get the chronology wrong. They say something happened before something else. And that book is linear too. It's basically these events happen in a chronological order. This didn't happen before that. You can't say what you just said because you got it out of order. Something else that happened before something that contradicts what you said. So just knowing the book, don't put yourself in a situation like that where you're misinterpreting because you don't actually remember what happens. And also, for the people that read your essays later, and when I do, we know the book so well, we spot, you can spot sort of insincerity. In other words, that's not the right word, but you can spot an attempt maybe to hide a lack of understanding. That interpretation doesn't follow. That's not right. I mean, it could have been if you had spent time developing it, but so make sure you do interpret it. And again, the question will be, and everything I just mentioned, I would focus on the idea of discovery. I would focus on the idea of investigation. The whole book is based on that, right? He's got a problem he's got to solve. He's got to find this guy, and he's got to get there, and it's kind of mysterious. Like, what's it gonna be like when he gets there, and what did he learn from getting there? So I think focusing on that and knowing what happens along the way, and the things you're gonna be fine. Any questions? I know it's been 2 weeks almost. All right, so because it's been 2 weeks, when we left here 2 weeks ago, I gave you a tone list. We had that little thing where some of it, Lydia, and who else was it that read? Owen. You read the, the thing. Well, the point is,
It was Clyde.
yeah, it was fun.
It was one.
All right, so what I do, I have a poem that's kind of known for its tone. I mean, a tone is definitely a part of this poem, as it is in any poem, but some work better than others. So I'm going to give you this. It's called Dover Beach. We're going to read it, and you can work with somebody. There are questions on the back. There are 9 questions. and should try to take us out today. So let me give you a copy of this. I thought y'all really helped me understand God's grandeur. You and the other class really knew that poem, really helped me. I feel a lot more comfortable with it. Is this your stuff?
Oh, I never read it. Huh? No, I didn't, but I love that. No, it's just such good conversation.
You know where Dover is in England? You know the importance of Dover?
Yes.
On the beach.
Oh, yeah.
It is a beach, yeah.
They're-
Let's
they're
go.
chalk- They're chalk cliffs, right? Or are they?
Sorry, thanks.
Are they chalk or are they calcium?
Yeah, what is it, the hills, the cliffs of Dover, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, they're famous.
They're white.
Yeah, the fact that there's this famous song, kind of World War II song, the White Cliffs of Dover. Do you know its strategic importance? Like,
It gets the high road.
yeah, it's, I believe, the closest point to France geographically. Most people would, if they went from England to France, would sail that way, because I think you can swim it too. I mean, we talked about it, I think there are about 25 miles there. People have swum across it. That's doable. But the Normandy invasion didn't take place across there, because that's where the Germans were expecting it. So they took the longer route to Normandy. But anyway, it's sort of an important geographical spot. I want to read it, Dover Beach, Matthew Arnold. I always saw him as a 20th century. He died in 1888. So, but he is definitely more of a modern writer. Let me read it to you. You can work with a partner on this, and I guess Thursday we'll pick this with the Death of a Salesman. Dover Beach. The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the straits. On the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window. Sweet is the night air. Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen. You hear the grating roar of pebbles, which the waves draw back and fling at their return up the high strand, begin and cease, and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We also find in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The sea of faith was once, too, at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long, withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Ah, love, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here as on the darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So clearly you need to look at it again, and again with a partner, answer the question. Can I give you, again, just a kind of pointer? I think shifts, notice the shifts. That's really important in anything, but particularly in a poem, since it's short enough for you to really notice them. So when something shifts, something changes, notice that.
These are
Yes.
So. Define any word in the poem you do not know.
We have some dictionaries, around dictionaries.
Okay, Ian will answer me this. Do you know what?
Did you,
Do you know what?
did you say the dictionary word?
Do you know what love?
I didn't, there's some back
Do you
there.
know what love? Knew it.
Don't be intimidated.
What about window, Ian? Do you know window?
What's
What?
the girl?
This. No, that's close.
That's a
It's in window form. Is it all glass? What makes it window? Metal.
A couple of dictionaries,
If those were.
Give me one a day, then it would be still window.
What?
It doesn't necessarily need open for.
What makes it?
Clay, what should I look up?
What?
It's, tell me where to look up, you gotta look up the word.
Oh, where to look up?
No, that's not opening.
Yeah, it is.
A article
Get out
to
door.
Opening in the wall.
distinguishes.
It allows you to see out.
Look up, hey, look up French.
Out. I think you're defining.
How about moon blanche?
To get the dictionary.
Moon blanche.
That's too far.
I'm gonna look up Ed.
I know what that means.
Good for you, Clay. Do you want an award?
Oh, word for word,
It's changing of the time. Look up Sophocles.
Ed is the changing of the tides.
How you spell it?
What did I say?
I'm not Kevin.
And I do believe that I have told you the dictionary definition.
As precisely as possible, define the implied seed. Think of physical location.
Wait, we still never did one?
We're still doing.
Oh.
Do you know what the Aegean is?
I do not know what Aegean is. So what's Sophocles? I was thinking that too, but I don't think that's what they want.
It may be a city, like a
Your city.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's,
Just gonna wait until you guys see what they're doing. Is that of or and?
and.
And
It's just an and.
Okay. So we're just saying England is a city. Yeah, okay. I'm just. what is the speaker's physical location?
I think it's close to the coast. Do we know what coast or is it just the coast?
The Dover coast.
Does he see you?
Who is he addressing? He's addressing
This,
Uh,
this of the original.
He's addressing us. Yeah, that's right.
I think he's talking
Yeah,
about
better
the great
understanding of it.
He's talking about the great past. It's like, he's like, it's like, it's all right. I guess.
Define it. What is the time of day?
Wait, is the time of day like morning? Yes. Dark or is it? Oh, and it's a hammer thing. I like that.
Yeah.
Should that be
And,
done?
but then, I don't know,
There's a muscle.
It's night.
Slowing back is
Night.
the short
Come back.
side, slowing back is
It's our last paragraph.
no, that's wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's because I need it. I think it's in grading. It's implied places. And that's like. It's implied.
Hey, that was the word I was missing. I was like, this
So
was
it was an African young man.
You can say the closest, close.
This, okay, okay, now you know.
Yeah,
Bang.
Wait.
There's my.
Okay, I was about to say, I did one back and I did the other. Oh, sorry. Discuss. Just discuss. The visual and auditory. And their relationship.
yeah.
So I guess the C and the night hand.
That's like.
No, that don't
It's
sense.
so like, you're definitely.
Like, there's kind of a different
But it says, oh, let us. Basically, that's what is the time of day? It'll say what? Night. Is it like storming?
See, totally.
It's like,
Is not fun.
roar. Yeah, it's windy and like the ocean is.
So, I think the first one is, remember, wait, is, are you saying the stress in the army training for the pebbles?
The pebbles of the
Yeah.
Vastness of the shows.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
The pebbles.
Yes.
Mine's so effective.
It's both illegal.
The moon.
Discuss.
Just one time.
like the way.
What number of terms choose as protocol?
Then
Waves.
looking back on the great melancholy.
Wind.
Yeah.
It's literally.
Wait, is it in the, wait, is it actually in
MEMELAN.
So you're talking about the world.
C.
No, it's not Lang.
The Bureau of Puzzles.
No, it's melon. It's a typo. It's just melon. Melancholy. Have you not been melancholy?
I'm crossing it out.
Or should I say I am?
Yeah, okay, whatever. The speaker is lamenting for the time of religious faith in his son as he himself a believer. Yes.
Yeah.
Does he
I'm
see the
sure
rest of the
that's
world?
what
No.
And
Maybe that's.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry.
Hey, Mohammed. Question. Is
You took a
He does not speak school.
is Ammon?
I start word. I should. I start. Let's fly to the word. No, better run. Just one.
What if they
So I gotta do
were?
just one. What if we just like open your eyes, keep going, just look at me and just get out. I'm working out. Start shooting. Start staring. I'm at I just stare out. This is why it starts like
I guarantee you.
what's happening. And you start like your whole body starts being a little red. You're like and you're like you start feeling okay, cool, we'll talk guys.
Is this a late or?
No, that's five. Oh wait, I'm in five.
Alright, anybody finished, I have one for Hamilton.
So I'd say it's.
You gonna have theology with him?
Yeah.
Cool. What do y'all study?
I don't know, I forgot.
What did you just study?
We just studied the spheres and then, like, what's it? Newman College. Something with
The study of the spheres.
That would be Newman College,
How was, how was that?
I don't know. Dude, that's.
You done?
I got one.
Alright, when you're done, it's time to go, if you wanna show me, video that you finished.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you messed up.
Daddy, did you finish?
What are you gonna do? You're not wrong.
Class picture.
No, it's okay, you said no. But also, I don't want to.
Okay, actually, I'm joking, but
It's not a joke.
but my other ones, I think I just need to. You guys are all like this.
Mr. Poe?
Yeah.
Come on,